Okay, our next public speaker is Cypress Wolf. I don't see Mr. Wolf. Our next public speaker then is Prophet Yusuf.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In the book of Proverbs, the 29th chapter, the 18th verse, it says, where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keep the law, happy is he. What I want to speak about tonight, healthcare needs to diversify its workforce to get rid of racial inequalities. Racial and ethnic inequities in healthcare are found in every state in the United States, despite the passage of legislation intended to improve health outcomes for minorities and increase awareness of healthcare disparities over the past 20 years. According to a new national report released July the 10th, 2024, the 300-page document from the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine detail how structural racism and people's surroundings have contributed to worse health outcomes for blacks. It also offers recommendations and solutions to healthcare organizations and the federal government, like a more diverse workforce and adjusting payment systems to make healthcare more affordable. Blacks in the United States are more likely to experience maternal and infant mortality, lower life expectation, and many chronic disease. Inequities are put in our healthcare system, and if we address them now, everyone benefit. Racism and bias from healthcare providers have also contributed to worse health outcomes. The committee behind the report suggested that more practicing physicians who are from diverse backgrounds and from the community they serve would improve several problems. My study showed that blacks generally receive better care when treated by their own kind. Healthcare systems should work to strengthen the ties between patients and providers so the patient has a voice in their treatment and bring in important community voices. Health systems should work with the community to understand what their needs are and engage them early enough. The quality of healthcare in the United States is not what it should be compared to other high-income countries, largely because we haven't addressed health inequity. The only way we will make progress, we have to do something now. If not, people will continue to suffer unnecessary and die unnecessary. It's time for blacks to stand up and speak up about this injustice. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Our next public speaker is John Tack Brantley.
Good evening, Tom McNamara, all the persons, our citizens that's watching today. You know, I'm blown away how Donald Trump is so diligently going about dismantling the federal government and how he got our neighbors, Mexico and Canada, on edge. And now he's even threatened to leave our alliance. I'm also tickled pink at the fact that how you think he's going to stop the war. He's going to do what he did in Afghanistan, where he turned to the Tibetans and never talked with the government about Afghanistan. So what are he going to do? Turn to where Putin got his, so far up his, I ain't going to go there, that it's a shame that it's no longer the United States of America, but it's Putin America, because Donald Trump is going to turn it over to him. But this past Sunday, I was speaking some history at church yesterday. I was blown away by how many people didn't know some of our own history. How many books in the Bible? 66. How many books in the New Testament? 39. How many books in the Old Testament? 27. See, and a lot of people that go to church don't even know how many books is in the Bible or don't even read the Bible, and they go to church every day. If we don't teach our kids our history and our future generation, we won't have no future generation. They said, Brother John, why you not work? Why you don't have a job teaching at the school system, teaching history at the school system? You know, Dr. Reed said it best in Canada. If I was working for the school system, I'd be fired in the next 15 minutes because they do not want to know our true history. There was an incident that showed you just have white privilege is still alive and well. I had an incident where if a black person hit a white person and they called the police, that police will arrest that black person quick, fast, and in a hurry. But when a white person hit a black person, the police say, "Oh, we got to review the tapes." That is called white privilege. That is double standard. If we don't see any justice by this here Friday, we're going to seek the streets and after seeking that justice. And I will post this individual face on the Facebook page. So we're looking for the police to do their job and not play favoritism when it comes to black and driving by being black. I want to end by saying I took the CPR class this weekend, and we had a 28-year-old African-American male in there. Never before have I ever seen an African-American male, a young male, taking being a child care provider. And we need to encourage our young people about being, that's why I'm proud of the chief of the fire department, because she's making her business to talk to our kids. Carla Red making her business to talk to our kids. If you don't reach out to our future generation, we won't have no future generation. And they need to know more than hip-hop and all these other crazy songs they be singing. They know every word to it, but they yet can spell their last name. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And I look for justice by Friday.
Thank you.
Police.
All right, so we'll begin the Code of Regulation Committee again from Monday, December 9th, 2024. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Karina.
Here.
Wilkins. Here. Barrios. Here. Bailey. Here. Bonnie. It's 4 present.
Is staff coming to present on these items? Oh, there. Okay, great. All right, so number 1 is a request for authorization to place for sale the city-owned property located at 4640 West State Street. The property is a duplex residence. May I have a motion to approve this item? So moved. Second. Okay, is there any questions for staff on this? No questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The item passes. Number 2 is a request to vacate right-of-way South Rockton Avenue between Green Street and Chestnut Street, as well as the north-south alley between South Winnebago and South Rockton Avenue. May I have a motion to approve this item? Second. Thank you. Is there any questions for staff on this traffic item? No questions. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The item passes. Number 3 is a request to vacate the right-of-way, the remaining section of Martin Road and the portion of Foley Street. May I have a motion to approve this item? Okay. Any questions for staff? These are pretty easy ones this week. No questions. We'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. That item passes. Number 4 is a request to vacate right-of-way, a portion of the east-west alley along the south side of 213 Stewart Avenue. May I have a motion to approve this item? So moved. Any questions for staff on this one? No questions, no comments. We'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? None opposed. The item passes. Item number 5 is a request to vacate the right-of-way known as Domino Avenue adjacent to 2115 South Central Avenue. May I have a motion to approve this item? So moved. Second. Okay. Any questions or discussion for staff? No questions or discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The item passes. Number 6 is the final plat of Rock Valley College Downtown West Subdivision. May I have a motion to approve this item? So moved. Second. Thank you. Any questions for staff on the plat? I don't have any questions either. We'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. Item 6 passes. Number 7 is the annexation of 5434 North Main Street. May I have a motion to approve this item? Thank you. Any questions or discussion for staff on this annexation? No questions, no discussion. We'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The item passes. Last item, number 8, is the annexation of 4580 Springbrook Road. May I have a motion to approve this item? Second. Thank you. Any questions for staff on this annexation or comments? Seeing that there's no comments or discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? None are opposed. The item passes. May I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. This meeting is adjourned. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Development Committee meeting for Monday, December 9th, 2024. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Durkee? Here. Wilkins?
Here.
Hoffman?
Here.
Rose?
Present.
Meeks?
Here.
5 present.
Thank you. Item 1, we have an approval for the development agreement with Steiner Electric for the establishment of Steiner Electric Company, Northwest Branch, at 5004 27th Avenue. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Durkee?
Aye.
Wilkins?
Aye.
Hoffman?
Aye.
Rose?
Aye.
Meeks?
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. That item passes. Yes.
Can I ask a quick question on that matter? We didn't have a discussion.
Yes. I'm sorry if I overlooked you there.
Yeah, thank you. And it's not going to change my vote. Just a quick question. This is a 10-year lease. Is there, I didn't see anything in there of the possibility of like a lease to own. Can they buy this building? Why does the city want to own this building?
We won't own, the city won't own the building.
Okay, so it's not a lease?
So Steiner Electric is leasing the property at 5004 27th Avenue with a 10-year lease. And we have proposed a development agreement that has a 5-year rebate on a portion of the 1% municipal retail tax.
Right.
Their long-term plans is they hope to either acquire this building or another site to construct a new building.
So right now as it exists, it's a lease, but our intention is to have them buy this building.
Not necessarily. We're not asking that they buy this building. Our concern is that the business is located in the city of Rockford,
Yep.
whether that's through the lease or the potential acquisition and construction of a new building.
Thank you.
Sorry about that, Alderman Durkee.
No worries.
We have one item under resolutions. Item 1 is an approval for the Regrow Tier 1 award recommendations from the Community Relations Commission. These awards will be $10,000 each. The funding source is a 3% local tax on adult use cannabis retail sales. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any discussion or questions? Alderwoman Meeks.
You did ask that last time, just so you know. It was just quick. I just wanted to say that I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I watched the Community Relations Commission as they went through all of the regrow grants. They were so thorough. They took into consideration some of the concerns that we had last year, and I really appreciated that. But I just wanted to thank them and everyone that has put in all the effort to bring this grant back to the community, especially you, Director, and just want to thank you all for, implementing this grant into the community, this first tier, and then we move into the second tier. But I want to thank the Community Relations Commission for their hard work in going through all of the applications and making some really sound decisions. That's all.
Thank you. Alderman Rose.
Yeah, thank you for letting me speak. I do agree with Alderwoman Meeks. However, I do have a few concerns. Is there, when deciding on certain organizations that currently have funding sources, is there kind of a scoring that maybe dings them for, just basically not funding maybe a certain program that maybe they should be, or, maybe there's a some organizational structures that are in place that they could be going to their organization for some of those dollars?
So I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. What I can tell you is, so we had a online review system, right? And there were 4 scoring categories that
Okay.
the committee used to go through. They were impact, innovation, leadership, and sustainability. So there was some consideration in the sustainability, like if they needed this funding, if it was just 2% of their ongoing for 10,000, or if it was really funding some hard costs and would build something for them. The committee did talk about that kind of cost differentiation. They really tried to favor, if they could, impact programs that were innovative and showed community impact, but also were using the $10,000 to build something, not just take a low percentage of a very full budget, if that makes sense. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, yes and no. Part of it was I noticed a few of the organizations may have connections to organizations that have $1 million budgets, and noticed that, it may have just been something where there was some maybe oversight on the organizations themselves of, maybe going to those people within leadership and saying, hey, we're really interested in starting this program, and how do we go about funding this maybe internally first, and then, I'm not sure if some of those organizations tried that initially and found that there wasn't a funding source, but I'll just put it out. There was one that includes another government entity, and I thought to myself, well, if they had gone to that government entity and said, hey, is there a possibility that this gets funded here from that entity? Was that taken into consideration?
I don't think in the grant criteria that was taken for what you're talking about. I mean, really, our goal with the CRC was to zero in on what did they say in the project description.
Yeah.
What is the audience? Are they meeting the disproportionate audience's need? like those sorts of questions. It didn't really get into their structure and other possibility funding sources of that for them.
So I guess that would be something, I'm willing to move this forward because I think they are important funding structures, but I think for next year's grant is that we take a look at those types of opportunities, because I do think that it's important for us that if it is an innovative grant and it is as innovative as they claim, that those organizations should be funding them, right? Is that they should be going to their organization first to ask for those dollars versus maybe an organization that doesn't have that type of pocketbook or can write a check like that. And so I'm willing to move it forward, but I do think that moving forward with this program that we have to maybe take that into consideration.
Sure, and I'd be open to talking to you about that. We tried this year to have for the $10,000, really have the committee zero in on innovation and impact versus the leadership and sustainability to try and find and give opportunity. So if you weren't a professional grant writer, you'd probably score higher in those 2 categories, right? We tried to get to the grassroots a different way, so open to.
And again, I think the process was good. I'm not trying to poke holes in it. I just do think that moving forward, maybe. It makes it, when you create these programs, you don't always know the extent of what are some of the consequences. And when I say consequences, I mean good things, as well as that as you develop these, there's always intricacies that come up and that can continue to grow the grant, but also fill in those ability to offer more dollars to a wider net.
Okay.
So thank you for your work.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you. Alderman Durkee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to raise the same concerns that I raised last year. It was an interesting comment that you made about the grant writer, because you can actually tell the difference in the grants when somebody had a professional grant writer. They used a lot of really cool buzzwords, so they sounded good. I'm wary of throwing money out. It's like throwing money against the wall and seeing what works. There's some really good organizations that are listed in these Tier 1. I'd almost like to see them get a higher dollar amount because they've been in the community. They're known to be effective to some degree. But the problem is we have this program, we're giving money, but we don't know specific outcomes. And so I'm not so sure these smaller grants are as effective as we'd like them. It does spread money around, but I think it spreads it around too thin. And it's almost like I'd like to see some of this money consolidated and given to programs that have been around, are effective, and can measure their results. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderwoman Prunty.
Yes, thank you for allowing me to speak at your committee. If you would, for the public, could you name the ones that are going to, who have made the top and would likely receive the funding? Could you name those?
Sure, I can read through the list. The 10 programs that were recommended for funding by the Community Relations Commission. So Rockford Barbell was recommended for their Youth Programs Mobile Unit. Black Hawk Learning Connection was awarded or recommended for their Learning Library. Citied Foundation for their Early Bird Social Worker Development Program. Greater Rockford Music Academy, their Nourishing Futures Meal Program. Black Hawk Area Council Boy Scouts, their program was called Scout Reaching for Success. DA Consulting Group, their program is Club 800 Financial Literacy 101. Boys and Girls Club of Rockford, their Academic Success and Tutoring Program. Rockford Alliance Against Sexual Exploitation, their program recommended funding was Trafficking Intervention and Prevention Program. Sounds of Good News, there you have a program called Speak It, Sing It. It's a video project. And then Regional Access and Mobilization Project for their youth education and career readiness.
Could you, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Durkee?
No.
Wilkins?
Aye.
Hoffman?
Aye.
Rose?
Aye.
Meeks?
Aye.
4 ayes, 1 no.
That item passes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. This meeting is adjourned.
Welcome to the Finance and Personnel Committee meeting held tonight, December 9th. Sir Clerk, if you please take roll.
Alderman Thunberg. Here. Frost.
Here.
Prunty. 3 present.
All right, thank you. Under committee reports, first we have item A, which is an approval of vouchers in the amount of $8,438,651.61. Is there a motion to approve vouchers? All right. Any questions or comments on vouchers? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item B is an approval of city-owned portions of right-of-way property donation to IDOT for the Rockford Complete Streets project. The amount of the property totals 0.27 acres in total, and it includes properties on West State Street, South Winnebago, near BMO Bank Center, 302 South Main, Wyman, Madison, 1st Street, and Walnut Street, and Kishwaukee. Is there a motion to approve? Any questions or comments for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item C, an intergovernmental agreement amendment with the Winnebago County for Reentry Focused Deterrence Program. This is a program extension with no change in the scope or dollar increase. Is there a motion to approve? Any questions for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item D is an approval of an ordinance authorizing city to utilize funds from the Public Water Supply Loan Program at the IEPA and application of loan for well number 45 reservoir replacement and site modifications. Is there a motion to approve the ordinance? Any questions or comments for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Moving on to resolutions. Item A is an award of bid for the 11th Street Reconstruction Stage 1 to N-Track, the amount of $12,235,322. The contract duration is through October 31, 2025, and the funding sources are the 1% infrastructure sales tax and the WRIA funds. Is there a motion to approve? All right. Any questions for staff? All right. Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item B is an award of engineering agreement for the 11th Street Reconstruction Stage 1 to Crawford, Murphy, and Tilly in the amount of $853,728 through fall of 2024. I don't know if that's a typo. 2025, okay. Thank you, Mr. Mattson, for the correction. The funding source is also the 1% infrastructure sales tax. Is there a motion to approve? Are there any questions or comments for staff? Seeing that, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item C is award of bid for tree planting services to Yellowstone Landscaping Lawn Care by Walter for an estimated annual amount of $40,000. It's a one-year contract with 4 one-year extension options. Annual price adjustments for CPI will be considered a contract renewal only, and the funding sources are the sales tax and the tree equity grants for disadvantaged communities grant. All right. Is there a motion to approve? Any questions or comments for staff? All right, seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item D is approval and acceptance of the Illinois Housing Development Authority Homeowner Assistance Fund Repair Grant extension for the additional $1,035,000 for a total cost of $2.46 million. The HAFHR program expects to close on the grant extension on January 16, 2025. The extension will allow the city to complete rehab on 14 additional properties. Is there a motion to approve? Second. Any questions for staff? Alderman Thunberg.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't recall when I was going through the agenda if we had specific properties or not on this.
We did an application for this from the homeowner, so
all right. Okay, and are there any limitations on where in Rockford, or are we just looking at the applications themselves? Are we targeting specific areas in particular, or? Great, thank you.
All right, any further questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item E is acceptance of the Office of Head Start, Early Head Start Continuation Application Grant Award for a period from April 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2026. It's also seeking approval for a self-assessment report, work plan, and program goals. This grant does require a non-federal cost match of $2,198,476. The City of Rockville received the below amounts to provide services: $5,292,728 for Head Start program operations, $53,781 for Head Start training and technical assistance, $3,396,870 for the early Head Start program operations, and $50,520 for early Head Start training and technical assistance. Is there a motion for this acceptance?
Second.
Are there any questions for staff? I just had one. The $2.1 million non-federal cost match, what fund is that coming from? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Thank you for your question. So the match for the Head Start program comes from our in-kind, essentially. So the value of our services being inside of, right now in the one facility within Rockford Public Schools, so like the value of the space that's there, the cost of any of the services provided as a result of that relationship, those are all counted as in-kind towards our program. In addition to that, a number of the other service providers that we work with, they charge us essentially, like they give us a discount, and then the difference between what they charge for their market rate and what they charge us is considered as in-kind to the program. So that amount does not come from another fund. It's in-kind that's provided to our program that we have to report to the federal government.
Okay, so the $2.198 million is actually all in kind, and no one's writing a check for that. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And then the numbers below, the 1 through 4, that's just a summary of the gross amount for the whole budget for the year.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. All right. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item F is an application approval and award acceptance of a HUD Continuum of Care Emergency Solutions grant in the amount of $192,497. The Health and Human Services Department will subgrant $75,420 to partner agencies and utilize $117,077 in funds internally for eligible ESG activities. The contracts will begin January 1, 2025 and end December 31, 2025. Is there a motion to approve? Second. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item G is the acceptance of the fiscal year 2025 IDOT Sustained Traffic Enforcement Program Grant Award in the amount of $131,814.50. It does not require a cost match. The grant term is from October 1, 2024 through September 20, 2025. It will be used to provide funds for police department high visibility enforcement and strategy implementation aimed at saving lives and preventing injuries by reducing traffic crashes. Is there a motion to approve? Any questions for staff? Seeing none. All those in favor indicate by aye. 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 Opposed? Matter passes. Item H is a change order for the Fire Station 6 building renovation Phase 1 to Ringland Johnson. It is a $76,238 change order on the original contract amount of $421,000. It includes safety and security upgrades through exterior door replacement, a kitchenette to serve the academy, and asbestos mitigation throughout the academy and entryways. The funding source is the gaming tax revenue. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
All right. Any questions for staff? Alderman Meeks.
Thank you for allowing me to speak on your committee. I was just curious, so the original amount, the $421,000, that was the work that we're speaking of, this exterior door replacement, or were these things that were added?
The items that Chairman talked about were the change order, so that there's more significant renovations happening for the original.
And so they didn't notice that when they first made the original?
No, those were bid as alternates. So we had a base bid, and then we had a number of other items that we would award based on available funding. So the base bid was awarded by council, and then once the gaming tax plan was approved by council, and we identified that as a revenue source to pay for fire police improvements, we're coming back now and asking what those alternates be added.
Understood. I can accept this change order. Thank you so much.
Any further questions? Good question, by the way. Any further questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item I is an approval of master service agreement with Civic Plus for recodification of the City of Rockford Code of Ordinances in the amount of $27,999.97. It is a 12-month contract. The funding source is the legal department operating budget. Is there a motion to approve? Any questions or comments for staff? Seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? Matter passes. Item J is a contract renewal for medical stop-loss insurance 2025 to Tokyo Marine Insurance of Houston, Texas, for a contract amount rates of $32.21 per employee for single enrollment and $111.04 for family. This is a 20.5% increase compared to 2024. The total estimated annual premium is $1,235,387 based on current number of health insurance participants. The contract is for 1 year, and the funding source is the Health Insurance Fund. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments on the stop-loss contract? Alderman Thunberg, yes.
Thank you, Chairman. 20% is a tough percentage to swallow on an increase in 1 year, but understandable in today's market. I would like to thank Ryan Bronze for providing us with what I believe is probably the best contract, but I'm wondering if he could elaborate. I see that he is in the audience amongst the thousands that are. If he could step up and maybe give us a little.
Yes, Mr. Bronze, welcome. Could you attempt to answer Alderman Thunberg's question?
Yes, good evening, Alderman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is for the stop-loss insurance. Last week we were here and we were talking about the clinic, and there was a question from the Alderman about the stop-loss at that time. We do a lot in the health plan, okay, and a lot of the health plan has actually been very successful, right? We've actually kept the costs down for many years, and the clinic is actually very successful. And the lawsuit that the council was steadfast in pursuing against the drug company Mallinckrodt that made national news was actually very impactful. But one of the things that we are constantly dealing with, okay, are the small segment of our population that unfortunately are very sick. So we're talking about issues like end-stage renal disease and things of this nature. So we have about 75 people in the group that are driving about $6.5 million worth of claims. If there is good news in that, we didn't have as many large claims this year as we had in the previous year. But where that hurts us a little financially is that in the previous years, we've always received almost close to the premium we've paid in reimbursement from the insurance company. This year will be really the first year in quite a while that the city will have paid almost $1 million in premium and really received probably back about $500,000. So this year we're paying for insurance, and in many respects it's good that the conditions didn't manifest themselves to be that serious. We're still waiting for some reimbursement as we close out the year in December. But the stop-loss market is very tight. Okay, interest rates have gone up, inflation has gone up, and even though we didn't have as many high-dollar claims, the conditions are present, and that's the way the insurance industry looks at it. We go out to the market every single year, and we look at dozens of insurance companies, including Lloyd's of London syndicates and all the insurance industry that writes this type of policy. So the industry is very familiar with Rockford. And we get a lot of credit in that industry from things like the clinic and some of the things we're doing, but we still have some very high-cost conditions. And we're basically getting this inflationary increase this year that we, unfortunately, we're not going to get back that much in reimbursement. The year isn't closed out, but that's really the reason for the increase, and that's the nature of the insurance. So not to try to oversimplify it, but stop-loss is an individual insurance. It's on any specific claim that goes over $250,000. So we had about 5 or 6 of those claims this year, and it's going to total about $500,000 in reimbursement. Unfortunately, it's not my favorite part of the industry, to be honest with you, because you find yourself almost rooting for people to come off the plan, and people in that environment come off the plan when they expire, right? So it's not the most fun part of the insurance world to work in. I much like being here talking about the clinic and those types of positive benefits and those types of positive things we're doing. So overall, the plan is actually functioning very well. This is an element of the plan that we need to have. It's fiscally prudent to make sure that we have insurance in case we have several very large cost claims, and that's why we carry it. In the old days, not too long ago, when you had when an employer might have a $1 million limit, stop loss was different, right? Now there's no limit, so we could have very expensive claims. This particular policy includes some additional benefits for 5 or 6 genetic conditions, hemophilia being one of them, where those claims can be in the tens of millions of dollars. So we have some extra insurance that's protecting us against some of these very rare genetic conditions that are out there. It's a miracle of modern science. The drug companies are coming out with some phenomenal drugs that are curing, these orphan diseases. But the hard part from the fiscal side is they're very expensive. And so we're trying to do both. We're trying to interdict claims at the low level with the clinic, and I think we're seeing success there. And then we're trying to put the proper insurance in place in case we actually run into a situation where we have lots of very large claims. Does that help you, Alderman? Did I answer what you're looking for there?
Yes, it was extremely thorough, Mr. Bronze. I appreciate all your work on that.
I love to talk about insurance. I'd be glad to talk to any one of you individually. And I also should say that we couldn't do this without your HR team. You have a pretty sophisticated plan, and we run a fairly sophisticated form of analytics and data warehouse. And we can't, that's not possible with every single large employer. But you have a sophisticated team here. Your HR team makes this possible. We really wouldn't be able to do the things we were able to do without the sophistication on your side. So I just want you to know that.
Thank you. Very thorough, and our HR team can take a much needed bow. And
they deserve it.
Very deserving bow. And I could see the mayor was on edge on his seat during this conversation, seeing his.
The mayor has been very supportive.
He was all ears on it. All right. Thank you.
I mean, I guess one thing, Mr. Bronze, you highlighted that there's one silver lining is that the number of employees or participants is down. The fact that our claims are under the premium is a much better thing than, let's say, if we had $3 million in claims. I'm sure that our premium would have been worse. Not just been a 20% increase, but even higher. So that maybe can you attribute some of that to the Health and Wellness Center, or are these conditions probably not?
Well, it's a good hypothesis, and that's something we run in our data warehouse a couple different cohorts. So you heard a little bit about it last week. We take a look at all the people that have used the clinic. This is all de-identified, by the way. We take a look at all the claimants that are using the clinic and then all the claimants that are not using the clinic, and we can see how those cohorts perform. Is that all because of what's happening at the clinic? Some of it is for sure, but not necessarily, right? This is why we track this over time. There are fewer heart attacks and stroke and cerebral type claims that are, maybe that is attributable to what we've been doing with hypertension. We need to do more of it, but we do track that. So maybe it's partly the sentinel effect. I mean, we have a situation in healthcare that, it's not easy to get in to see your primary care doc. And not everybody, monitors the conditions that they have very well. They're not always compliant with the drugs they're supposed to be taking, and they don't follow up well necessarily as they're supposed to. And that's an issue in healthcare in general. Something that the clinic helps us do is alleviate some of that access issue and to kind of keep reminding the participants there, take your drugs, call us if you have a problem, when are you checking in with your specialist, and kind of staying on top of that. And overall, that maybe just through the sentinel effect, there seems to be a positive correlation there.
Thank you. Alderman Meeks.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak on your committee. Thank you so much for that explanation. I was just curious, so as we continue year over year possibly to decrease the high-risk claims that are kind of coming through that cause us to have to carry this stop-loss insurance, what can we do to what can be done, I guess, to bring down those costs? Can you answer that question for me?
I can at least attempt that. Yes. Some of these conditions are, people that have, polypharmacy, they're taking a lot of drugs, or they have some serious chronic conditions, right? So we had a situation several years ago here where we had somebody that was unfortunately not able to get to dialysis quickly enough. So we were able to work with them to get them a taxi cab to take them to dialysis, right, and things like that. So we do from time to time try to take a hard look at the very specific claim to see if there's something we can do for that person, right? So the clinic is kind of working in general, population type health, right? When you're working in this specific category, it is very narrow to that particular patient and claimant. much like you have found with your mobile integrated health program, right? The quote-unquote frequent flyers, right? So sometimes what it takes is really an individual and close contact approach. We've had some programs in the past like that. We had a program here called the Integrated Health Advocacy Program. It was nicknamed IHAP, and it worked very well, but it ran its course. And then they went out of business really and stopped doing it. But what we learned from that was if you can get close to these particular high claimants, you have a chance to assist or try to reduce those claims. That's not that easy to do. We talk about that all the time. Now, we have done that. We did 2 years ago. There was an incident with a high claimant that had a drug issue, and we were able to source that drug at a much cheaper price, right? So sometimes it's just something in the kind of the supply chain, if you will, that maybe we can kind of interdict and try to help that. But as far as trying to, unfortunately, a lot of the conditions that manifest themselves into very costly conditions are lifestyle related. Right, so, and we all have the same issues, right? If we can exercise and eat healthy and things like that, yeah, it really does make a difference. And we see now that a lot of cancers are lifestyle related, and a lot of these conditions we might be able to do something about ourselves, but that's really way on the front end. Once somebody's in disease and they're already have these very high claims and they're seeing a lot of specialists or they're having some very expensive surgeries, there's not a lot we can do about it at that moment. But we're looking at it all the time because this insurance is probably going to keep going up. Is the problem. So it is related. It is based on the experience of the group. So they take a hard look at even though the claims weren't as expensive, and we went from 7 claimants down to 5 this year so far, the conditions are still present in the case. So the insurance companies look at it like, well, this particular condition may not have cost $1 million this year, but it could next year. And that's why they're trying to forecast forward.
Is there any opportunity if you forecast forward at a higher rate and then you realize you didn't need it, that we get money back?
I love the way you're thinking. Yes, there is. And the stop-loss policy it has a few little knobs and levers on it, okay? It has something called an aggregating specific, right? So here's the way you need to think about this, because you are our policymakers and you run the health plan. And really, it's all about risk. How much risk do you want to take, and how much risk do you want to offload to the insurance company? The more we push to the insurance company, the more they charge us, right? So we have something called an aggregating specific, which means all the large claims have to get to $400,000 first before the insurance company starts to pay, and then it's $250,000 on an individual. So, and that we took a little more risk that way upon ourselves. Right, and then we can raise that specific limit. So instead of them paying at $250,000, and I think there is a $25,000 increase in that specific deductible tonight that you're voting on, but we could continue to raise that, and the premium will go down. But the thing you must always remember is it is all about the risk, who has it. And the more you want the insurance company to pay, the more the premium's going to be. Right, the cheaper the premium, the more risk we take. So we're willing to take risk if we have a good understanding about the risk, the health risk of the group. And you heard that a little bit last week from the clinic folks that were talking about this Johns Hopkins metric. So there are a few ways to actuarially kind of look at the conditions in the group and say, hey, the average person has a risk score of 14. Okay, the lower the risk score, the lower the risk of the group. We know when we started using the clinic, when we first started looking at risk scores, we were in that 15 or 16 range. Okay, now we're down to like 13 to 13 and a half. So the risk score overall has actually kind of come down. But something else that we need to remember is that the average age of our workforce is not young. It's not old, but it's not young, right? So I mean, you think about a software company that has 22-year-olds programming, right? Their risk scores are pretty low. And one nice thing about the city is people tend to come here when they're young and they stay through retirement. And then when they retire, we still have their claims. So we really, if you think about it, you own their claims from the time they come till well after they leave, even into retirement. So as the population ages, the more they tend to claim, the more risky they can be. So we know that there are some conditions in the case that we would really like to try to get a handle on. We do have a fair amount of diabetes in the case, in our population here. And diabetes, it leads to a lot of issues, and it's an expensive disease, unfortunately. It's lifestyle related. So we're working with HR all the time on various programming. We've got things going on in the clinic where people can come and get cell phone glucometers and all sorts of things to try to stem that tide. We know we have a fair amount of autoimmune in the case, right? And autoimmune is something that's expensive because the drugs that treat that can be expensive. But again, it's also lifestyle related. So I also want to thank labor because we have to work inside the collective bargaining agreement, right? And labor's been very helpful. I think we all understand we're really all on the same page. We're all trying to produce the best benefit at the least amount of cost. And sometimes that means we have to have meetings about things like, what are we going to do for our diabetic population, right? What can we mandate? What can we ask for volunteers? What programs will work? And as we try to look into our autoimmune population, that's another conversation to have with them about lifestyle and maybe, how can we support that? In the past, we've talked about even using the health fund to buy groceries. Really, you talk about how do you get the claims down? Well, you find a population has a real issue with this and say, well, we're going to maybe buy the groceries for you and help you learn how to control the disease state that you have, very specifically, hands-on.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right. Seeing no further questions, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Item K is award of RFP for audit services to Baker Tilly in a not to exceed amount of $112,300. This is a one-year contract with 4 possible one-year extension options. The funding source for the audit is departmental operating budgets. Is there a motion to approve? Any questions on the audit? All right, seeing none, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. All those opposed? Matter passes. All right, is there a motion to adjourn? No, we can talk. Anyone want to talk about red? Does Alderman Tuberg have a question about red wool blazers tonight and how he got his? All right. All right. This meeting is adjourned.
No motion, no second.
No second. Everybody's sleeping.
He just decided it's over. No, for real, he's making the motion.